Now, why is salt, like the lionut herbs, Portuguese Atlantic sea salt, so incredibly important, so incredibly good for you? Well, because a lot of the time we're dehydrated, right? You may know that you're dehydrated, but you may find it's a struggle to drink enough water. You might find that you forget to drink enough water. You may find it's actually difficult to drink the water. You may feel like you just don't want to drink the water. And a lot of the time, this is actually rooted in a deficiency of real good quality salt. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that, first of all, yes, we need to get the bad salt out of our body, right? So bad salt is heated, treated, contaminated table salt, right? This is not good. This leads to high blood pressure. This leads to hypertension potentially. This leads to all kind of problems potentially, right? But it's a million miles away from what I'm talking about here, right? Unheated, untreated, raw, right? Pure sea salt that your body actually recognizes as something natural. Because when you have a deficiency of this kind of salt in your body, what happens is that you become deficient in electrolytes, right? Especially sodium and chloride. And so your body starts refusing to take in any more water, refusing to take in any new water because it doesn't want to dilute its reserves of electrolytes anymore, right? And so this is where we get into a situation where we become more and more dehydrated, but we don't remember to drink the water, or we don't want to drink the water, or we don't feel like drinking water, or the water makes us feel sick, all of these kind of issues, right? So we need to make sure we have enough good quality salt in our lives. Now, the challenge is that a lot of the time we hear all this stuff about salt being bad for us, right? So whereas the average citizen probably consumes too much of the bad salt, right? And so therefore they consume too much salt in general, along with all their processed food and all the rest of it. And most of my audience, most of the people watching this, most of the people who care about their health, they're having too little salt. They've gone to the opposite end of the scale. Now, just temporarily for a short period of time, that can certainly be beneficial because you may need to detoxify some of that toxic table salt out of you, so it can be good to not to have any temporarily, and you might feel better temporarily, but long term, it's not beneficial to go without salt. Now, it does depend on the person. People vary so hugely, right? And everyone is different. The kind of person that I tend to find needs more salt and needs salt particularly is the kind of person who has a tendency, first of all, to be ungrounded. Right? Salt has a very grounding quality. I noticed one of the kind of groups of people within the health world who talk against salt tend to be very dogmatic, tend to be very fanatical, tend to be very in their head, tend to be very uncentered and ungrounded. And I believe that part of that is due to a lack of salt, right? So it's to keep us grounded, it's to keep us down to earth, it's to stop us from being too much in our heads, too much all over the place. Another benefit of having the right kind of salt, right, in the right quantity for you, other than drinking enough water, other than staying grounded, is that it helps every cell in your body work better. And when you have a deficiency of that salt, then your body doesn't work as well. Now, the challenge is especially that the more stress you have, and the more that you have adrenal activity, the more you have adrenal exhaustion or fatigue, right, where your adrenal glands are overactive, the more likely it is that you need more salt, because the more stress you have, the more anxiety you have, the more paranoia, the more fear, the more anxiety, any of those kind of feelings, also frustration, all the kind of feelings that kind of make you burn for your energy, that kind of make you use a lot of energy, is also using up a lot of salt, right? And so we need to replace that salt. Otherwise, we can end up in a place where we feel kind of wired. Anything which acts like a diuretic can also deplete us of salt, right? So for instance, if you drink a lot of coffee, like I used to many years ago, if you're drinking coffees throughout the day, they're not only going to be dehydrated, but you're also going to be salt depleted, right? If you're doing a lot of exercise, that's another reason why you need to replace your salt. If you're doing a lot of sweating, for instance, if you're doing saunas, right? Or maybe if you're just working hard in a warm environment, all of these things make us need more salt. So it's true, if you have lived a sedentary life and you're not really stressed, you're not really got any kind of issues like that, and you're used to eating foods that are high in salt, you could probably do it with having less salt. So I'm not saying that you definitely need salt, right? Because everyone's different. But if you're more my kind of audience more, right? Which is people who have tended to suffer with stress in the past or still do, people who are exercising, people who are working hard to get healthy, people who are eating well, which usually means eating a lot of fresh vegetables, a lot of time fresh fruits, which are high in potassium. We need to have the sodium as well to balance that. And I would say the simplest warning sign that you need to have more salt is if you don't feel thirsty, right? Or if you don't feel thirsty for the amount of water which is recommended by organizations like the World Health Organization, right? Which is around 2 liters a day for someone of an average size, average weight. If you don't feel like drinking that, if it's a strain to drink an adequate amount of water, that's a very likely sign that you are deficient in salt. Now, why go for Lionheart herb salt? Well, Lionheart herb salt comes in the category of Celtic sea salt, right, or Celtic sea salt, depending on who's saying it. So if you're into if you've heard before that Celtic sea salt is good for you, then I absolutely agree. This is better than Himalayan sea salt for a few reasons. First of all, it's a sea salt, so it has more of an affinity of water, whereas a Himalayan pink salt is a rock salt. I'm not saying you shouldn't have Himalayan salt, it's perfectly okay as well, but it's not as good, it's not as premium as this. This also has incredibly high levels of trace minerals. Now, Portuguese Atlantic sea salt has even higher levels of trace minerals, around 30 to 40% more than the classic French, northern coast of French Celtic sea salt, right? So this Portuguese Atlantic sea salt is really one of the highest trace mineral sources you can get. It's also got an incredible taste, right? I mean, salts do taste different. The taste of this one is just incredible, right? Hard to describe. I highly recommend that you try it. It's also incredibly pure, right? This is actually made local to me. It's a short drive away in an area called Tavira in Algarve. One of the reasons that I now live out here is because it's one of the most environmentally pure, just incredibly unpolluted areas, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the air when you drink the spring water, when you eat the food. It is just very pure, and it's very true for the salt as well. And it hasn't been heated, it hasn't had anything added to it, any flow agents, any kind of nonsense like that, which makes it bad for you. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the best sea salt in the world. Wherever I am, like when I went to Thailand recently, this is the salt we took with us, right? This is the best salt in the world, and for that reason, I want to make it available to you as well. So that's why it's now available for the first time. We've got coarse or fine, right? This is a bag of coarse, just wanted to show you. And really highly recommend that you consider that. Now, you can also use this to soak in, right? If you want to put it in the bath and soak in it, then that's a really powerful way of detoxifying, of calming yourself down, of grounding yourself as well. So that's another potential use for it. So if any of that resonates with you, if you're realizing the power of salt, this is, by the way, is the best value mineral in the world, right? Something like half a kilo. We're talking about 10 pounds, and that will last you a long, long time, even if you need large amounts. This is probably like a one-off purchase per year or even longer. I guess it depends on how much you use, but what I'm saying is it's a very minimal investment considering the amount of benefit you're going to get from it, right? It makes all your food much more delicious. So I would highly recommend every customer of Lionheart Herbs have a bag of this in their kitchen, on the counter that they use every day as part of their food preparation, right? This is just an essential, basic, no-brainer thing to go for. That's just awesome.